Hey everybody, welcome on back to a little update. For those who haven't heard, I'm sure most people are aware, a lot went down this weekend, and as of the last couple of days, a lot has happened. So you'll see the two cars in front. If you're in the news or in the know-how, you'll know exactly what this is referring to, but Chase Elliott has been suspended for the Gateway race this upcoming weekend for the intentional wreck with Denny Hamlin at Charlotte. Now, let's, I guess, dive right into it. What happened and what's the situation? Well, basically, one racing for position on lap 188, Denny Hamlin got into the side of Elliott, pushed him a little high, and into the wall. Elliott then retaliated by right-hooking Denny Hamlin head-on into the outside wall, destroying both of their race cars and ending both of their days. We've seen this before. Kyle Larson and Bubba Wallace last year. So one race suspension seems like an easy call. Pretty much was an easy call NASCAR made in this instance. Now, the other question, I shouldn't say questions, let's be real here. The only people who really want this question answered differently are those that are either full-blown trolling or they're just so deranged that they want Elliott out of the playoffs in any way, shape, or form. Will Elliott get a waiver? Almost for sure, yes. NASCAR's never not done that, so for them to randomly decide now that, we don't want to do waivers anymore, so we're kicking him out of the playoffs. It's the same issue we had when he got injured earlier this year. Suddenly it was, they should not give out a waiver. It shouldn't be allowed, even though it's been done how many times in the past. The minute it's Chase Elliott, some group of fans randomly decide it's time to just buckle down and never allow anything and keep him kicked out of the playoffs if possible. So I'm not sure why that is, but let's be realistic. They're not going to end the Napa season, the Hendrick 9 season. They're not going to, completely eliminate them from the playoffs. That would be really, really stupid on NASCAR's part because it would be the most severe penalty they've ever given out, and considering the circumstance, doesn't really seem like it would make a lot of sense. So that'll be happening. He'll be back for Sonoma. Corey LaJoie will be taking over the 9 car this weekend at Gateway, so a great opportunity for Corey. You might think, well, why is Corey in that car? Because Corey has his own car. Well, yes and no. That 7 car will now be occupied by Carson Hocevar. So, interestingly enough, the guy who right rears people 3 times in the last, 12 calendar months is now getting a Cup Series opportunity due to the guy of the 9 car right rearing the guy of the 11 car. So, what a weird turn of events. I'm not going to lie, I've been very impressed with Hocevar, what he's done down at the Xfinity level when he's had his couple of opportunities. I think that series allows guys to race a little bit different. They don't have to race like such egregious rear ends, I guess, would be the best way to put it. The truck series, you kind of have to because it's an all-an-arrow game, where in Xfinity, you can try to get around the guy. If you can't get there, you can do it in the next corner. You don't have to, it's not such a momentum game that you have to, take that extra inch because you'll never get it back in the trucks. You'll battle with someone for 10, 12 laps if you're not willing to just, cut them off. Where in Xfinity, you don't have to. You can battle them for a few corners and eventually the better car will win. It'll be interesting to see how he handles the Cup Series, but he will be racing trucks as well, so he'll get plenty of track time at Gateway. I will not be there. I wasn't planning on going anyway, but then obviously this is an easy call not to go when your favorite guy's not even going to race. But I will be going to, I think, Indy is the plan at the moment. So I was going to do Knoxville Nationals. Looking at the calendar, I don't have the days off. I shouldn't say I don't. There's just not enough days to take off to do that, so it would make more sense for me to go down to Indy and then do a Friday, Saturday, Sunday down there instead of a Wednesday through Saturday in Knoxville. Okay, that pretty much touches on the updates. Looking forward to Gateway. Now we're basically just going to do a quick little chat about the incident itself. Similar to Bubba Wallace, right rear after getting walled by the car on the inside. I don't even remember what my take on the Bubba Wallace instance was at the time that it happened, but I still probably share the same sentiment as that, and I think it's very similar, but my take on it is, does Elliott deserve a suspension? Yep. Do I think Hamlin deserved to get crashed? Yep. Maybe not right-reared, but he definitely earned one. I think NASCAR fans have gotten accustomed to the idea that if you're racing for a position, it's fair game. You can, knock someone into the fence, you can spin them out, you can basically do whatever you want as long as it's with the excuse of it's for position. And it's not true. It's not good racing. So, Hamlin deserved something, not a right rear hook head on into the wall, but did Hamlin deserve to be able to just wall Elliott twice and then walk away unharmed? No, that's a way you get run over. That's where you get William Byron for the last couple years, where you just get run over consistently. You eventually have to stand up for yourself, and for the guys that do give a lot of room, guys like Truex, Elliott does that. Kyle Busch generally does, but a little bit more in this next gen car. He'll push those limits a little tighter. And I know he got into Stenhouse. He's gotten into a few different guys racing really hard in that 8 car. Kyle Busch generally had been one that does give plenty of room. But there's a number of guys. They will give you plenty of room to run your lane while they run their lane, and they're not going to cut you off, or I shouldn't say cut you off. They may cut you off if they're clear. They may take it real quick. But they are not gonna, door you up into the fence. They leave enough extra room that they don't have that unless it's a huge error. This goes back to the Chastain-Hamlin incident. I thought when Hamlin's having all these incidences with Chastain just constantly spinning him and taking him out of races, does Chastain deserve payback for those things? He sure did. Would I rather NASCAR have stepped in and maybe done something instead? Maybe, because if NASCAR's not going to let the drivers police themselves, because it's dangerous, by the way, then I'm okay with it. If you're going to go through, say that the 11 puts the 9 in the wall, and then the caution comes out 10 laps later. I'm okay with NASCAR coming down and saying, we're going to send the 11 to the tail of the longest line before the restart for walling another car. And by the way, that goes for Elliott, Chastain, Bowman. I don't care who it is. I don't think NASCAR should be rewarding guys for wrecking their competitors at all. We don't do it at any other form of racing. In go-karts, guess what? When you spin somebody out, you go to the back with them. You can't just spin someone out. It's just every level of racing up until the highest level here. That's kind of how they do things. In late models, you dump somebody, guess what? You both go to the back. Sometimes they'll even give the guy who spun his spot back. I'm not a huge fan of that, because chances are he got spun by holding someone up. But yeah, that's what happens. I don't see why at the cup level that shouldn't be policed similarly. At the end of the day, it used to be, well, they're professionals. They know what they're doing. Well, not anymore. They don't. I think if you're going to knock somebody out of the way and spin them, I think you both go to the back. I don't think it should be encouraged. It shouldn't. You should know, if it's the last lap and I'm racing for the win, if I choose to just flat out dump my competitor, I'm not going to win. I'm going to the back. I don't think that should be a viable option to win. So, for instance, I'm just going to throw 2 cars in here just because they're here. I'm not saying it's these 2 cars. But let's say last lap at Gateway this weekend. This car needs a win. This car's already in the playoffs. Going into the final corner, punt, spins that car around. Or let's just say this, punt all the way up into the fence and then just rolls around the bottom and wins. This car should get penalized. That's not a way to race. I'm sorry, it's not. Taking your competitor out of the race is not racing. Okay, that's the same logic of having someone jump off sides and go injure the other team's kicker on a game-winning field goal attempt. Is it illegal? Kinda. They'll penalize you. But is it worth it if you can knock their kicker out of the way and now they can't kick a field goal and you'll probably win the game? Then it's worth it. Is it good sportsmanship? Absolutely not. And that's the same way in racing. If someone's in front of you and you choose to use them as a battering ram and just knock them out of the way, you didn't race them, you wrecked them. And if NASCAR is not going to allow these drivers to fight on pit road or police themselves on the racetrack because it's quote-unquote race manipulation, then they have to start policing that stuff. They have to. They can't have a middle ground. Now, am I saying every little door contact needs to be policed to that degree? No, not necessarily. Not to that level. However, when you get into a race, even if, say Denny Hamlin got tight and Elliott was further ahead and he just caught him in the left rear and spun him down the front stretch, should Hamlin also go to the rear of the line? It wasn't intentional, but should he go to the back? Yes. The answer is yes. If you take a competitor out of their race, you should also have a disadvantage in your own race. And that goes for anyone. Kyle Busch, it goes for Alex Bowman, Kyle Larson. Frankly, when Larson walled Bubba, obviously they both ended up wrecked at the end of it. But if Larson walled Bubba and Bubba didn't retaliate, I think under the next caution, it would have been perfectly fair for NASCAR to say, avoidable contact or whatever type of penalty for flat out walling your competitor. and giving them a 1 or 2 lap penalty, something where, you know, it really hurts their day. It's not impossible to rebound, but, you know, it shouldn't be rewarded. You should never be rewarded for wrecking your competition, because that sets a very bad precedent where whoever wrecks somebody first gets away with it, and then they have special protection because if that guy does anything back, it's considered retaliation. That's a bad precedent to set. It's the same thing I saw in IndyCar on Sunday. Watching that race, I was a little ticked off at Marcus Ericsson. Late in the race, he pulled a double block. I don't think you should be blocking at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, period, in IndyCar. I think once you choose your lane, you go high or low towards the end of the backstretch. You swing high, you swing low. But when he swung low, then back high, then started dipping low again, I thought that was a little excessive. Award went to the inside, and then he squeezed him into the infield and spun him and wrecked him. He did not give Award a lane to run when he was side by side with him. And to me, I have a huge problem with that in IndyCar, where guys, it's for some reason they're considering it acceptable to squeeze people into the wall and into the grass at these racetracks. That's not safe, and that's not clean racing. You have to give your competitor a chance to stay on the racetrack. You know, giving him the option of I either wreck you or you yield, that's not racing. That's not a good form of racing. That's just infuriating, because you're not playing defense, you're driving dirty. You're forcing them to have to wreck you. And at some point, there has to be a certain element of respect amongst your competition. Again, it drives me nuts because Award was fast. I was kind of rooting for the McLaren team. I thought they had such good cars on Sunday. But like I said, the biggest thing that frustrated me was watching the blocks. I mean, and everyone was pulling them. I'm not a fan of a guy looks high on you, so you swing high, and then he looks low and you swing low again. You should not be blocking in open wheel cars, period. So like I said, that's IndyCar. NASCAR, you can block the hell out of each other. Go ahead. But when you get dumped, that's what happened. I don't have as much of a problem with that. If you block so excessively, you get spun. So yeah, do I want NASCAR involved in those decisions? No. But if NASCAR is not going to allow retaliation, then they've put themselves in this box. Now, again, am I condoning right rearing a guy for getting fenced? Absolutely not. However, that's not what the rule book says. The rulebook says any intentional contact with a competitor that costs them positions or something like that. Okay, so that means that's why that's why Denny Hamlin got fined at Phoenix, because he intentionally made contact with his competitor. In my opinion, that should have never been a penalty. Denny Hamlin simply did what NASCAR had been saying, which is drivers police themselves. Now they're saying, well, that's retaliation, so we're going to penalize it. Well, now guess what? What are your options? If a guy fences you, walls you off, what are your options? You can't hit him back later. You can't punch him on pit road, so you're pretty much left to hook them, or I don't want to say hook them. You could wall them, I guess, coming out of the next corner if you really want to pull that game, but it's not a good ending. None of those end up in a good place. So I don't know what they're going to do about it. I don't know what the future looks like. I do know I am very disappointed with the Cup Series drivers this year. Xfinity guys, I'm telling you, those guys have been racing really respectfully, really hard too. Hard, but yet not super dirty. And the Cup guys, they have just, I mean, I don't know if it's a low horsepower, high downforce thing where they're all just really packed together and really desperate for every inch, but they don't race with a lot of respect, and it does bum me out because, I mean, I watched the Xfinity race right after the Coke 600, and I was just amazed. I mean, everyone raced so respectfully and hard. They raced really hard around each other and respectfully. That's what I love to see. And it just seems like in the Cup Series, they're kind of forced to crowd people up into the wall, force them to lift, or get fenced. I'm not a fan of that style of racing where it's, you know, basically you're going to lift or I'm going to fence you. That's not racing. You have to give your competitor a lane to race in, because if you're not, it's not racing. You're just, you know, basically playing chicken at 180 miles an hour. And that's just dumb. So, again, at the end of the day, Elliott out for Gateway. I will be streaming again, hopefully for Gateway. Hopefully the weather is normal, so I can actually plan the streams out. This weekend was so hectic with all the weather patterns and stuff. There was no way it was going to work. So, yeah, should be back for Xfinity at Portland and Cup Series racing on Sunday on this channel. But yeah, like I said, no Chase Elliott, and Carson Hocevar in the 7, and Corey LaJoie in the 9. So kind of an interesting setup. But anyway, guys, that'll wrap up the video. Let me know your thoughts on the Chase Elliott penalty and also on the Corey LaJoy substitution and Carson Hocevar getting his first start. Put in the comments below. We'll chat down there. Other than that, guys, thanks for watching. This has been Race Craze, and we will see you in the next diecast review.